Hello, my name is Tiffany Grantham, and I am a writer for Sistah Girls Book Club and gearing up for World Book Day, an annual event organized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization to promote reading, publishing, and copyright. I'm interviewing three librarians from Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. First, we have Sabrina Robinson, a teen librarian associate, Cal Hearns, a circulation librarian assistant, both which work at West Boulevard Branch Library. And last but not least is Detrice Fox, who is a branch manager at Sugar Creek Library, and she will be joining us a little bit later. First, welcome you guys. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. And my first question to the both of you is why did you become a librarian and what are the steps to becoming a librarian?
I'll let Sabrina start first.
I was gonna let Kyle start first because I think I probably have the smallest amount of library experience in this arena here. So I've only been in library services for 4 years. I didn't have the most traditional path. With that being said, I don't know who does, um, but I would definitely say that librarianship fell in my lap. I just had this conversation yesterday um, with a one of the people that hired me, and someone literally asked, "You seem like a nice person. Are you looking for work?" It's like, yeah. And then then the opportunity, like just 9 months into it, I was part-time in working in collection services, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love, like I saw exactly what the importance of library workers and what you could be. And I just got addicted to like just learning more about the profession, and I shadowed different librarians that were so nice for me to take me under their wing, and an opportunity came up for me to be a team person, which was really ideal because I grew up around here, so I used to walk to this library all the time when I was 14. So I was excited at the opportunity to be that bridge between teens and library services and resources. So it was easy, and I've been doing it ever since. So
Oh,
Cool.
wonderful.
So I guess my story started off when I was a child. My mom taking my sisters and myself to the library every Saturday for story time. And remember my dad. He at the time he worked at a community college, and he would bring home the projectors. I don't even know if that. I guess I'm dating myself, but I'm gonna go ahead since this is open forum. But he'd bring
Mm-hmm.
home the projectors, and we would rent like real movies from the library at that time. That's what they had as their collect part of their collection. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always had like that's my foot one foot in the library arena and one foot out. When I went to high school, I volunteered in the library. Then I went to junior college and I worked as a page, and I pretty much have worked my way all the way up through every role in the library to even having to being a supervisor of a branch at one point. And it wasn't until I came to West Boulevard and I had encouragement from fellow coworkers that I decided to pursue my degree further on into the I guess, librarianship profession. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be graduating in May with my LIS.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so it's kind of like come full circle for me in my life. Like I never thought I would be at this point, but I do realize the importance of information. I'm always wanting to learn, grow, and I think that we are the hub for that, and we provide those opportunities for people to be able to grow, to have access to information, to learn. So
Absolutely.
um, I think it's important, especially representation. As a Black man, I don't think
Mhm.
we're always brought to the forefront in this profession, and so I'm trying to push that with my career. So
Wonderful. Thank you. And joining us now is Detrice Fox. Thank you so much, Detrice, for joining us. I did announce you earlier. You are the branch manager at Sugar Creek Library. And we are so glad to have you here. So, the first question that I asked, so you're right on time, is why did you become a librarian? And what are the steps to becoming a librarian?
You don't really want to hear my answer. Nobody does. Um, what was the question again?
So, why did you become a
Right.
librarian? And what are the steps to become a librarian?
Oh man, I had no intentions. This was not my career of choice. Um, I graduated from college in 2005. I spent 4 months trying to find a job after that, and I was going crazy.
Mhm.
And this was actually the first job I got out of college. I came into the role. I did what I was supposed to do, and at some point, this spark happened, and I just really began to enjoy what I was doing. In particular, when I began working with teens and adults in 2005, no, 2010.
Mhm.
And so that was the thing, just having the creative freedom to be able to offer programs to expose kids and adults to things that they may not have had the opportunity to have exposure to
Mhm.
was important to me. And it's one of the things that has kept me here all this time. And the steps, honey, listen, when you walk through a library door, nobody knows the difference.
Right.
Nobody knows the
Right.
difference. You are a librarian to everybody.
Yeah.
That's right.
But if you want to be formal about it, of course, you do have to obtain a library degree. And whereas I used to, I did everything in my power not to get a library degree. I went and got an MBA, I went and got an MS, and finally it was like, okay, if you're gonna be here, just do this. But it has opened up a door that I didn't think I wanted to walk through. Like, how the heck did I get here managing a library? But I'm here and I'm grateful, and just being able to provide access to people who do not realize that the access is right here in their community is so important. And I am excited to do this work.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Now, Sabrina and Kyle shared their experiences with the library from starting from a younger age. Do you have something similar to their story?
My mother worked for the Public Library of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, which is what CML was called back in the day. Um, and yeah, she was a storyteller. What are now called library associates and children's services. They called them storytellers at the time.
Hmm.
So she would go into rooms and tell stories without a book, and it was like you could visualize these stories in your head. And I just remember going to work with her on Tuesday nights because the library was open till 9 then.
Hmm.
Oh, whoa.
Oh,
Past
oh,
um,
bedtime.
that is bedtime.
so I remember going to work with her on Tuesday nights and like sitting there in the stacks in the books,
Mm,
just I wouldn't say reading, being mischievous is what I was doing,
okay.
and so, but it was just I was always surrounded by books. My mom was an avid reader. Well, she still
Hmm.
is an avid reader, and she still uses the library to this day. Not just because I work in it, but because she just loves the library. She doesn't even come to my library; she goes to other ones. Um, and so that is my origin story with the library. So I am very familiar with what they offer. I've seen the transition through the years. Like, we are not just books, we are so much more than that. We are a
Absolutely.
community service that provides access to the community. So
Well, I'm so glad you said that because that's going to lead into my next question for you all, which is what are some things the library offers that most people don't know or think about? And anyone can take that question.
That's a good one.
well, for me, I will say,
Hmm.
um, because I worked in the Job Help Center for so many years, people do not realize that they have access to free career development resources, workforce development resources. In particular, resume review service. It's free to the community. Whatever you need. There's so many people walking around here with jacked up resumes, but they could get free feedback on their resumes. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
when I worked in the Job Help Center, though, one of the things I was afforded the opportunity to do was attend a training to get my certification in career development facilitation. And with that, there were so many things I was able to contribute following my training. And so I started. Career coaching at the library. These are services that cost people nearly $500 to
Wow.
do. I was offering for free. So I just think that that is one of the things that's so important that people know. We offer now. Be mindful that not everybody is comfortable with that. That's just something I specialize in, and
Hmm.
I can offer to the community. And I'm open to people reaching out to me directly about that because I'm so passionate about being able to help people elevate in their careers and in the workforce.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I would
Yeah.
piggyback off of Latrice and say our resource page. And I'm still trying to kind of figure out all the different things we offer on our resources page. But anything from learning a language to I want to say GED test prep courses, um, being able to pull a motor out of a car. All that is available on our page. So it's like sometimes it's a hidden nugget that people just don't realize. And
Right.
as I guess my responsibility and others is to kind of promote it, which I don't sometimes forget to do. But I
Hmm.
would say just the fact that we have endless resources.
Yeah, I just to contribute too. When we say resources, I think like resources in like space as well. Just going back to me talk about how we were introduced to libraries. I didn't have that same traditional upbringing where I didn't necessarily, I grew up in Arkansas, so we didn't necessarily have libraries like around in all of our like neighborhoods. So the concept of being able to go to a completely free space was completely foreign to me until I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and not only did I live in the predominantly black neighborhood, but there was a library there which I had never seen, and that allowed me, like when we would run away from home, my mom would be like, "Okay, girl, you just at the library," So so that that was our space. So being able to just like for those of us that were kind of like shy or nervous and didn't necessarily, even if you did have neighborhood friends, we just kind of walked up to the library and had that safety. In my adultness, when we talk about resources, I would say like things like LinkedIn Learning, which Detrice talked about in career development. Those have been some of the things that I found have enhanced my career, even as a library employee now. Like I'm still learning things, videography, time management, project management skills, all something that's on a platform that could cost anyone traditionally hundreds of dollars, but is free with simply just a library card. So I would just echo that.
Okay. And what are the biggest misconceptions about the library, in
That you
your
read books all day.
opinion?
That you sit around and read books all day, and that you don't. I believe I was speaking with Sabrina about this. That we wear so many hats, and you just never know which hat you're going to put on each day when you come into a library. So
No, that's it. Definitely the I have to say the books part too because again, so how I was introduced to libraries, I know we're gonna get into this topic later, but I wasn't allowed to access a whole bunch of different things. But even just having this space just to be exposed to certain cultures, different ideologies, beliefs. That was what the library was for me. So, but programs, I think people really underestimate our what we do here as programmers, making sure that the community is connected with like things that are going on within our neighborhoods, within our community, different advocates, different companies, different services. So I think people really underestimate or haven't really tapped into what programs the library offers on a regular basis.
Has there ever been an instance where people don't realize you all have computers, or that you all are still using the card catalog? I know that's a bit of a throwback with card catalog.
I'll say this, that people, and this is crazy because my friends should know better, but um, this was back when DVDs were a thing, and people had DVD players in their home. Like they were so surprised that the library had DVDs and
Mhm.
CDs, and not whack stuff, but like the new release from Friday, hip hop,
Mhm.
rap, or whatever. Like that was something that they were like, "What the library? Yes,
Yeah.
come check us out."
All right. And so my next question is, what is your most memorable moment at the library, working in the library, or your most memorable customer?
Mm. I have one. A gentleman came in. He was recently released from incarceration, and he walked up to me and he just said, "Hey, I want to start changing my image, the way I look, the way I come across." And he pointed to me. He said, "I want to kind of look like you." And it shocked me because sometimes we don't realize people are watching us and the way we carry ourselves. So we got to talking more, and he said that he wanted to start reading different books. The books that people were giving him were just some of the same books that were not giving him more of a kind of like a worldly view. And
Gotcha.
so I shared with him my reading list or books that I've have heard about along my way that I have kind of put down on my book list. And I shared it with him, and I just told him, I said, take your time through it. Just work your way. I said, then can kind of piggyback off of what I've done and just create your own, but just continue to work through it and build your own collection. And so it was like kind of like powerful, that the exchange we had in terms of how he wanted to change the way he walked, the way he talked, the people he hung around, and the way way he dressed. So it just was like a moment, another come to moment where I was like, wow, this we do have impact, and our impact sometimes is not always what we see, but what we see from our end. But yeah, so that was my
Absolutely.
moment.
I can see how surprising that could be. Anyone else? I'm pretty sure you all have some interesting stories.
Um, my most recent would be I have a certain type of I guess trust that's established with me in my audience, which is primarily teens.
Hmm.
So I won't give their name, but they actually just recently disclosed to me basically how my program saved their life. Like they didn't necessarily feel motivated to get up, or have thought about ending their life. But she was like, excuse me, they that part out. But they were wanting to express to me, like after 2 years, that this was something that they looked forward to. So they're glad that I have been able to do this consistently for 2 years. So
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. And I'm glad you were able to experience that.
I will say that I've been with the library since 2005, so I've been here a long time. I got a lot of memories. Um, so I cannot run down any one thing in particular because every time I get an opportunity to impact the customer, it should be memorable to me.
Right.
But there have been so many times, um, so I can't pinpoint one. But I will say that my time in the Job Help Center was one of my most memorable times working with the library because I really got to see the impact that I had in people's lives just by, um, you know, taking a gander at their resume. Just something simple. I would
Mhm.
always get follow up communication from people about the fact that I got an interview. Like where I've been using that resume for years and I ain't had an interview and I don't know how long. And you helped me change one word and now I got an interview. Like that type of stuff um is so important. Just to that I keep that in the back of my head, those types of memories in the back of my mind all the time,
Mhm.
like which helps me fuel me to do what I do and help people every day. So I just really enjoy being able to have some impact.
Well, thank you. It seems like you all have like a really, from all you all story, you have a great impact with the community and forming bonds with them, especially in the teens department. So, um, absolutely wonderful. So, you touched on something earlier, Sabrina, about having access to materials, and so the Idaho Children's School and Library Protection Act bill would have required public schools and libraries to take reasonable actions to keep prohibited materials from being accessed to minors. Now, this was brought to the House floor, but it did not pass. But my question to you, if bills such as these are passed, tell us how you believe this will impact the future of librarians and libraries.
Um, I
It was a loaded
honestly,
question.
it sure was. Honestly, I'm still at the stage right now where I can only answer this as authentically as I can. Is that question? It still scares me. Like it's still I think I'm still processing the what ifs about it because again of everything that we talked about of what like of what libraries are and it's not just a book but you're talking about like information that we're like keeping away from people, from humans. And so honestly this the question and the thought just scares me because it is already difficult to get just quality education, like information, like just on a what you're entitled to as a young person, and to threaten the last free resource that we have known to human beings all around the world. Puts us like just a step away from the world that we of independence, democracy that we don't realize is really on a very very delicate thread. So I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Would anyone else like to speak to that?
I think it makes librarians' jobs and I guess the branch manager's jobs that much harder because it's like you kind of walking on eggshells because you don't want to be. I mean, who wants to be fined? I mean, so it's
Mhm.
like you want to provide this information to all. I mean, but at the same token, you don't want to be that library where it's like, oh, we got another fine. Oh, we got another. So it's it. It's a very touchy situation and topic, and I think
Hmm.
there's no right answer.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we just got to continue to push for what we all strive for, which is access to information.
Okay.
And we have to be
So
bold and radical with it.
absolutely. So I want to bring it a little bit more because I know it was a broad question and a lot of what ifs, but I want to bring it a little bit more closer to home and ask about your experiences in giving recommendations to books, and have you ever run into that issue where you might have thought a book was appropriate and it wasn't, or have you ever been in a situation where the books you wanted to recommend might not have been appropriate, and if you had to you know deviate your or go with other recommendations? Did-
I don't want to make sure I'm not talking too much, but I would say a little bit of both. Well, I'm saying both, like as a patron, but then also as someone who works for the library. Um, my sister experienced that when we were growing up and she started getting into reading, and we had a very I would say reserved or pious kind of Christian household, so a lot of things weren't introduced to us until later until our adulthood really. So she would find information in books, and she started reading like romance. And then when she walked up one day she tried to check out an item, but there was a note, like a block on her account, saying that she wasn't allowed to read that specific item. And I'll never forget like the betrayal on my sister's face, like when she got in the car. Well, we both got in the back seat, and it was a family friend at the time where she was like, "Gotcha," because you've been reading all those grown and like sneaky things. You don't need to be reading it. And if to see the book and it was just simply romance, and that's something that not to get deviate too far off, but
Mhm.
she was never able to experience. So it was interesting there to see it, like how that kind of changed our structure of how we even got introduced to books and whatnot. So it was kind of that left a lasting impact. But on in working for the library, I will say that the only other experience I've had close to it is actually when I traveled to the Joint Conference of Librarians of Color recently, and hearing other people's experiences was wild to me and made me more grateful for where I work and the community that I work for, where they were yeah, like where hearing how other people, when they were in different communities, how they were not able, they don't have half the support of what I would say here, people that even have been ridiculed or had faced retaliation. So
Gotcha.
that was, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, continue on a little bit along the same lines. There's always new lists or new books added to banned books lists. What is the library doing to combat that list or to make sure that anyone can have access to those books?
I think that in particular, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library is changing the narrative
Mhm.
around banned books, um, because banned has a negative connotation. They are focusing more on the fact that everyone has a freedom to read and read what they
Mhm.
want. And so, one of the biggest initiatives has been renamed Banned Books Week has been renamed Freedom to Read Week. And so, I think that the library is taking a lot of steps to making sure that we continuously have items that are for everyone, that kind of um, span all types of genres and topics, and just put really pushing the idea that you have the freedom to read whatever you want. And so, um, we're a public space.
Mhm.
People should be able to get the items that they prefer to read. And if there are things that people don't like, of course they can ask that it's removed. But how is that helping anybody? How is it helping the library? How is it helping them? How is it helping society? And so it's important that we continue to just push forth the items that are considered banned.
Okay. Would anyone else like to respond to that, or did Latrice just kind of sum it up for everybody? Because that was good.
Yeah, I think she summed it up.
All right. So my next question is, I know. So when I forget who said it earlier, but you all just don't read books every day. Sit in the library and read books every day. So my question is, what projects or special projects are you working on, or initiatives are you working on? So, and I know I want to leave room for everybody to respond because I know you all are quite busy every single day. Kyle, let's go first.
Okay, so we are going. Well, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library is doing a partnership with local barbershops around the area, and I'm a registered barber here in North Carolina. I graduated in 2012,
Mhm.
2012, 2015, somewhere around there. So I'll be partnering with that program to encourage literacy among um, young Black men and to get them to understand the importance of literacy. So that's one partnership that's think it's going to be taking place within the next month or so. So we're going to be trying to work out the details with that.
Hmm.
I'm also, I mentioned to several of my coworkers that I've been accepted into the Radical Librarianship Institute out of UCLA. So I'm
Congratulations.
working on a $10,000 grant to start a program here at West Boulevard to continue on for um, foreseeable future. So
Hmm.
that right there is taking a lot of my time, and I'm trying to get everything, all the pieces together for the puzzle. So I'm excited. It's kind of daunting, but I'm excited. I think it will be great for um, our library branch.
Awesome.
Organization.
Okay. Sabrina.
It's just it seems like when you cross one thing off the list, something else is added. So right now, I would say first, I guess on a more personal level, I am attending the University of Alabama to get my MLIS, specifically in with concentration in archiving with a social justice intersection. I was able to get a scholarship there. So thank you, thank
Okay.
Yeah,
you.
look at you.
So I'm pointing at Detrice, like when Detrice talks about resources and like there's free help, she's just absolutely right. She did help
Mhm.
me with that process. Like I said, I'm a living testimony of using the library and where it could get you even within the field. So I just want to plug that. Um, but also that as far as work is, I'm continuing to work on the circular, the which is a team newsletter, and right now, I'm also on the Living Archives team, which is a initiative that with Kyle, which is a library initiative that is trying to actively preserve the stories of Charlotte Black Indigenous people of color, and their COVID-19 experiences.
Okay.
So I've had the fortunate, I say those things too. I've had the I guess the fortunate I guess reality of being able to help give agency and voice to people within my community to be able to tell the stories in different methods and really connect from a programming standpoint. And so everything just kind of fall in lines for me with it, my passions and what I love, combine the arts, activism, and whatnot. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. And last and certainly not least, Detrice.
Y'all ain't got time for that. Really. I I try a lot, but I am still fairly new in this library manager role, and so my project is making sure that my staff is good, making sure that they have a good balance, and that they're not over capacity. I'm taking a, an emotional wellness approach to managing,
That's important.
and just looking at the human condition and making sure that we are all good. So that is the both. That's the project right there.
That is
Um,
a project. That is a
but
project.
That's a great project.
and one of the things that I don't get to do a lot of projects right now because again I'm still figuring out my job, but I am working on the workforce development team,
Mhm.
leading the sub team on the advanced curriculum, where we've identified five classes that advanced classes that we will be offering. So
Mhm.
currently we're working on lesson plans and presentations for those five classes. And I think once this is over, I'm done with that because, I'm leading a branch and trying to lead a little sub team is a lot, honey. So,
Mhm.
but I have always been one of the people that is like always got my hands in something. So it's
Mhm.
difficult for me not to be involved in a lot of things. But oh, I am on the adult services retreat planning team,
Okay.
which I've been on that for years and I love doing that.
Okay.
Um, so we are working on having a nice little retreat to, just get together and network with each other, have some good food, and, you know, have some good takeaways. But that is currently what I am working on, just trying to be the best at what I do and help others be the best at what they do.
Awesome. All right. So something a little bit more light. Um, what's your memorable book or author that was your introduction to Black literature?
Um, mine is Honey I Love by Eloise Greenfield. And
Okay.
this book came out in the 80s, I think.
Mhm.
I have a signed copy by the author. I love
Nice.
it. When I was at West Boulevard and I went to Reed Park to do the African American, is it a reading? Something they had every year,
Mhm.
where the librarians would go up there and read to the kids. I would always recite the poem Honey I Love by Eloise Greenfield in a very, very animated way. And the kids loved it, and I love reciting it. So
Okay.
that introduced me to literature and let me know that I really enjoy poetry. I am not a writer, but I love to read it
Okay.
um, and edit it. hmm
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. I know that
Uh,
from experience. Yes.
the red
so
pen, huh?
yeah, that was my introduction to Black literature. And more recently, like I am not a fiction reader.
Mhm.
I am a heavy nonfiction reader, but my favorite book right now is called Professional Troublemaker by Lovey Ajayi Jones.
Mhm.
I love it. I have recommended it to everybody that would listen. um, and so I really enjoy that book. I actually just recently added it to my personal library, and I'm excited to just tell people about it.
Okay. Now, do you still know that poem by heart? Honey, I
I
love.
do, but I'm not performing. I ain't getting no money for this. Sorry. For adults, I gotta pay. You got to pay. Children, I give it to you for free.
I tried. I tried. All right. So, who would like to go next as far as their introduction to Black literature? There.
So I guess mine was Man Child in the Promised Land by Claude Brown.
Mm.
Um, and it's funny because we were talking about earlier about banned books, but I read something where they were saying because of the graphic content in the book that it could be considered a banned book now. But for me, it was just it gave the reality of a black man in America,
Hmm.
what we go through, and so that was my introduction. Currently, I'm reading, and I know you all seen this book. I had it for months. It's not by a black author, but
I'm waiting
I
for
am
you to get to the
I am
end
working
so
my
we
way
can talk
through it.
about it.
But it's an excellent book, and it's important to me because Nipsey was a voracious reader,
Mhm.
and he had a book. He had a book list, and so that kind of encouraged me to start my book list. And I took some of the books off his list and added to mine, and it shows the importance of constantly feeding yourself with information. So yeah, he's my inspiration in a lot
Awesome.
of ways. Yep.
Okay, so I'll say mine. So I had to really think about this question, but I came up with Insazaki Shange, who is the playwright for Colored Girls Who Consider Suicide When the Rainbow Wasn't Enough. I hope I said her name right. But honestly, that was my first introduction to literature, to African American literature in itself, because where I grew up, it was like, again, it wasn't like a lot of us going around, but I was able to escape, in theater. I did theater for a little bit.
Mhm.
So having to connect with um just a series of stories dealing with mental health as it pertains to Black women was something that I connected with. And I hadn't found a lot of resources, especially around the time frame, mental health became like a popular thing to advocate for in recent times since COVID. But around that time, that's something it was. I appreciated finding a piece of work that resonated with me outside of Shakespeare, which is what I pretty much had to recite. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't understand that perspective, but
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad I never had to learn Shakespeare.
I
That
had to.
that's something.
It
Ooh.
was enough trying to understand it, honey. I ain't gonna hold
Yes.
Exactly,
you.
exactly. And I actually found connection. That's a series that I'm working on, but the connections between it,
Mhm.
only because you. Never mind. All right.
And what are you currently reading now?
Me. So
Mhm.
I'm for the sugar Clay, the Sugar Jar Clay book. You know what I'm talking about?
The Sugar Jar by Yasmin
Yes,
Cheyenne or Cheyenne, I think.
that's yes. That is what I'm reading in the Four Agreements. So that's what I'm reading right now. But the but yeah, I'm reading that to try to establish more like confidence and agency in my voice and in my feelings too. And again, an advocate for mental health, especially as it pertains to Black women. So yes, that's what I'm reading right now.
Yeah, I am actually also reading that. I'm always reading. There's like two or three books I'm always reading at a
Yeah.
time. That one is the main book, and
Uh-huh.
so far it is really good, and I've been highlighting and taking notes and stuff. I know that's not a thing you're supposed to do in your books, but I love writing annotations in my book
Hmm.
just to go back. And it is a really good book about creating healthy boundaries.
Absolutely.
So, my last question to you all is how do you think we can increase the literacy rate among Black children and adults?
Um, I would say being consistent in our presence. I think that we have so much try to make children adjust to a system and not trying to adapt a system to the children. So what I find is what my role working with teens is one being a listening ear. They have enough people and enough structures telling them what to do, how to be. So I provide the space first, gauge their interest, and kind of find a meeting ground for something that I know that I have expertise in, maybe something that they're interested in, and creating a space where they can feel safe no matter what level that they come on, and not having so much tough expectations, but just being
Mhm.
present.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak to it?
So, it's hard, but it's important that we actually do the work, especially with children, and sit down and read with them.
Mhm.
Um, that's something that the library has been pushing for years and years and years, forever, and it's really simple. Like, they found different strategies and things to help parents to read with their children so that they can increase their literacy rate. Um, it's just really going to take a village to help children get to that point, and we have to make sure that there are books in the home, and make
Mhm.
sure that there's somebody that has the willingness to work with these children. I know it's hard. I know that there are, you know, parents just trying to make ends meet
Right.
sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, and, but, at what cost? What is the expense? Um, we have to find a way.
Thank you. Thank you for you all for participating in this interview. Like I cannot thank you all enough. I think all the work that you do in the teen department, in circulation, and as a branch manager in all aspects, your work is important. And we thank you from the community. We thank you so much. Now, I know I said those were my last questions, but I do have two trivia questions. Okay.
What's the gift?
What's the gift?
What's the gift from that?
Bragging rights.
If we get it right, what's the
Bragging
okay?
rights.
All right.
Bragging rights.
Okay.
All right. So now you should be able to get this one, Kyle. All right. Who was the first African American male librarian?
I had tip of my tongue. Can I cheat and look and go through my
Mm-mm.
man? Come back to
Even if
me.
it's
Come back to me.
even if it's a
It's,
first name or last name or middle name.
what is his name? Um, it's I can't. It's yeah.
Why
I
would
can't.
we know this? Ooh, I'm sitting racking my brain like, what?
So
What?
I specifically picked this question as to highlight Kyle for being a male librarian. Some
He
people
would.
do.
I know his name too because I wrote a
How
short.
dare you, Kyle?
Ah, but
uh,
yes, I picked this because
EJ is
there
it
are
EJ
not a
Josie?
lot of.
Josie? Is it Josie? EJ Josie?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's not EJ Josie. Okay.
So I picked this question specifically because Cal is a representation of males in the library, which aren't a lot. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is like less than 1% of Black males in librarianship. So I just wanted to, just give highlight that there are men in librarianship. I know there was a call in recent years for Black male teachers and nurses, but they're also needed in libraries as well because representation everywhere for all um, young Black children, especially young Black boys, is extremely important. So they know that there's not just one way to succeed and you know get
I,
out of the place that they're in.
I would like to say that part of the reason I really enjoyed working back at West Boulevard was because I was around so many Black men librarians. It
Absolutely.
was a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. I enjoyed seeing that. I enjoyed seeing
Excellent.
like they weren't just there, like they were interacting, like they were
Very
engaged with
engaged.
this
Yes.
community. And so it was a beautiful thing to see. And thumbs up, Kyle.
All right.
So so I'm going to go ahead and give the answer, which is Edward Christopher Williams.
Okay.
Right? Edward Christopher Williams was the first African American male librarian. All right. So the second question is, who is the first African American woman Library of Congress?
I ain't got nothing for you. I, listen, I can tell you who the first Black library manager was for the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library.
Give it. Give it.
Allegra Westbrooks. Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. And we have a location named after her, located on Beatty's Ford Road. Okay.
Yes.
Way to
Yeah.
plug, Detrice. That's right.
All right. So the first African American woman Library of Congress is Carla Hayden, and she was I don't want to say promoted, but she was selected by President Obama. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yes.
Nice.
That
All
is
right.
cool.
Well, I again I want to thank you all for doing this interview for me. You all are amazing, and I appreciate all the work that you do, and just being a representation of Black librarians for everyone to see and to be proud of. Um, and yes, so that's it. I'm
Thank you.
gonna. Mhm.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for the opportunity. And, you are going to do great things, I see.
Thank you all for joining me for this interview with the librarian. For more interviews and book reviews, please visit Sistah Girls Book Club on Instagram or sistergirlnextdoor.com.